The road to Durham, North Carolina makes its final two stops on Saturday. One of them in Orange City, Iowa, one of them in West Palm Beach, Florida. And we're going to talk about that tonight here on Midwest Sports Net. Thanks for everyone watching tonight. And please let us know from where you are watching in the comments section. If you happen to be watching this on the replay, go ahead and put that in the comment section there. But if you're in the live chat tonight, let us know from where you're watching. I know Jake is watching or will be watching a little bit later on from East Wichita. Appreciate you stopping by a little bit early, Jake. It's nice of you to do that. Listen, we've had a fairly good week this week. I've enjoyed getting to visit with people. Had a great conversation with Grace Beyer, great conversation with Jason Danley as well. And tomorrow, we have something big tomorrow night, so I'll definitely tell you about that here in just a moment. In the meantime, let's talk some NAIA football, and well, the very first matchup here involves the number one team in the country. That's right, the Northwestern Red Raiders, number one team in the country, and they come in with a record of 13-0. You know what? It's tough to pick against them. We'll see where our picks go a little bit later on. But let's talk about this matchup here really quickly. It would be tough to pick against the top team in the country who has now won 26 consecutive games. That's right, 13-0 this year, won their last 13 games on the docket last season after that season opening loss at the hands of Morningside. That by just a point. So 26 consecutive wins for Northwestern. It's a big-time streak, really, to hang on to. And since they are the defending national champions, and since they are on a 25-game winning streak, wow, you just have to say, until somebody knocks them off, they've got to be the person to talk about. But that team could very well be Georgetown. The Tigers are coming in 10-1 on the year. Gehrig Sluniker, 126 for 213 passing for 1,635 yards. Now, that is just 59.2% completion percentage, 148.6 yards per game. We're going to talk about these touchdown to ratio or touchdown to interception ratios as we go through. And with these four quarterbacks that remain in the playoffs and leading their teams, obviously they've done a fantastic job to get their teams into the playoffs. You can't look at these touchdown to interception ratios and go, wow, this is just really something that I'm going to tell my grandkids about. You just can't. Not big time numbers, however, been able to get it done. Sluniker, state champion in high school, a sophomore now. The Tigers have done well with him at the helm. He has 14 touchdowns, passing touchdowns on the season to just 10 interceptions. That's a ratio of 1.4 to 1. And that is by far the lowest TD to interception ratio of any of the quarterbacks still remaining. And really the quarterbacks in the previous round as well, been able to get the job done. 49 carries on the season, a negative 64 net rushing yards. So you look at that and go, okay, listen, there have been opponents that have been able to get into the backfield and bring him down. Now, he does have some positive gains. We're talking about a negative net 64. 3 rushing touchdowns on the season, obviously some positive gains there as well. But it's a Georgetown team, though, that is really defense is what's there. We'll get to the defense in just a moment. Darius Neal, 188 carries, 1,344 rushing yards, 122.2 yards per game, 20 touchdowns on the season, 20 rushing touchdowns on the season. That is good enough to be tied for number 3 in the NAIA. I realize that as the playoffs go on, you can add to those stats just a little bit, maybe jump above some that didn't have those numbers through the regular season, didn't make it in the playoffs. It's all right. It's a solid number. It's a good number. Hey, Kevin, thanks for watching tonight. Kevin giving a go Raider Nation. We'll talk about those Red Raiders as we move on here in just a moment. Kevin, let us know from where you're watching tonight here in the live chat. Neal, 18 catches, 145 yards receiving. Doesn't have any receiving touchdowns. But again, we mentioned Georgetown led by that defense. And you look at some of these numbers, 13.5 points per game. That's second in the NAI, behind only Grandview. And we saw what happened to Grandview last week. Grandview had been giving up less than 6 points a game, gave up 31 to College of Idaho. That was big time. Anyway, Georgetown, 13.5 points per game. That's all they're giving up. 84.6 rushing yards per game. That's 6th in the NAI and tops among the teams that are still in the playoffs. 256.2 yards of total offense. That's all they're giving up. That's fifth in the NAI, tops of the teams that are still in the playoffs. And Georgetown has managed to score 6 times with defensive touchdowns. That is at the top of the NAI, tied with 4 other teams, but still, it's at the top. So Georgetown at 10-1 on the road to Orange City, Iowa. A road trip of, depending upon, I guess, which roads you travel, a little more than 12 hours, closing in on 13 hours on the road that Georgetown will have to travel to Orange City, Iowa. That could make for a fairly long road trip. I imagine they're probably, if not already, I would imagine they're on their way right now, even as we have this live stream tonight. Northwestern at home, don't have to travel. Of course, that's what happens when you're the number 1 team in the country. You don't have to get on the road that often. A win in Saturday's game would mean the first time that the buses or the plane has been fired up for the Red Raiders in the playoffs this year. Jalen Gramstad, 230 for 330 passing on the year, 3,195 passing yards, 69.7% completion percentage. That's a big time number, hovering near that 70% mark. He's throwing 245.8 yards per game, 30 passing touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. That is tops among the quarterbacks remaining, a 4.3 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio. Gramstad getting it done. Connor McQuillan, how about this? 180 carries, 1,188 rushing yards, 91.4 per game, 18 rushing touchdowns. He has 24 total. And by the way, he's tied with somebody else that we'll talk about tonight with 144 points scored. He's been responsible for that. 11.1 points per game. That's 4th in the NAI, but 144 points, 24 touchdowns, 18 carries, and 6 receiving touchdowns for him as well. So Georgetown, 10-1, Northwestern, 13-0. First ever meeting between these two programs. And I have to tell you, I was really surprised by that. That one caught me off guard a little bit. I just, that it's the first time these two have ever met. That amazes me. Northwestern undefeated coming in, and our pick here on Midwest Sports Net is that Northwestern is undefeated going out of this game. 14-0 as Northwestern, I believe, will come away with a victory over Georgetown. And, you know, the Red Raiders, and Kevin, if you're still watching this, but the Red Raiders, I don't think have been given enough credit during this playoff season because, you know, they haven't won games in big time fashion or dominating fashion. And I think part of that is due to the fact that they played some really tough defenses. I mean, you get into the playoffs, you expect these matchups to be tougher than what you would see over the course of a complete regular season. There are going to be some tough teams in your conference. The GPAC's a tough conference. There are going to be some teams that may not be as tough over the course of 11 games, 10 games, however many your schedule allows for at that point. And Northwestern played some very tough defenses, played a very tough Dort defense that had seen already in the GPAC and managed to get only 7 points on the board, played a very tough St. Xavier defense and scored more than 7 points, but still that was a very tough D. So you look at that and I've heard, well, they're not being as dominant. They're not as strong, or they don't show themselves to be as strong. It's a product of being in the playoffs. And really what you have to do at this point, you just win and you just continue to win. And so that's where they are. So we're picking Northwestern with the win over Georgetown. That is our pick in our first semifinal. Then the second semifinal has a team that may have surprised a few people along the way. In College of Idaho, taking on Kaiser. Both teams 10-2. Both teams facing each other for the first time. First ever meeting between these two. And you see a couple of offenses that can produce points. And you see a couple of defenses that have really stood up as well. So look at this really quickly. College of Idaho, a victory over Montana Western on the road. A victory over Grandview on the road. The Yotes come in at 10-2, and they are led by Andy Peters, who continues to show what he can do at the helm. I wasn't picking up on what he was doing prior to, I want to say the first third of the season, but his game just continued to become more dominant as the season went on. Andy Peters, 228 for 396 passing, 3,158 yards passing, 57.6 completion percentage. Maybe not as much, but he's doing that up there in that Frontier Conference, which we may talk about a little bit later on tonight. We'll see. We'll see where we go on our season review, talking about some of the conferences and the teams and what kind of grades you could give for that. But Andy Peters, 57.6%, throwing 263.2 yards per game, 29 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions on the year, a ratio of 3.6 to 1. Not quite to that 4 to 1 mark there, but still, that's a fair. I'd say a pretty fair ratio. 127 carries though for 807 rushing yards. That is tops on his team. He leads the team in rushing yards. So his total offense there, let's see the quick math on this, add the two together, 3,965 yards of total offense, and that includes 8 rushing touchdowns. Peters has been responsible for the Yotes for 37 touchdowns on the year. Now, of course, crossed the goal line only 8 times himself, but 37 touchdowns on the year. Pretty solid mark. John Schofield, 49 catches, 777 yards receiving. That's a pretty cool number. 68.8 yards receiving per game. That's 52nd in the NAIA. But we know what Schofield can do. He has 11 receiving touchdowns. That's not all that Schofield does. 28 carries for 92 yards, 13 rushing touchdowns as well. Schofield responsible for 24 touchdowns, and those are all points in which he's crossed the goal line. So he has 144 points as well, along with Connor McQuillan. They're both right up there at the top. However, McQuillan's average is only 11.1 per game because he's played in one more game. One more game. And Schofield has 12.0 points per game, tied for second in the NAIA. Has those same 144 points, but you have to divide it by only 12 instead of 13. So, pretty solid offense. It's a defense, though, that did its part against Grandview, giving up only 17 points a game. And this was a Grandview offense. We've talked about their defense all year long, but the offense had been producing more than 45 points a game itself. The Yotes on defense on the road shut down the Vikings last week, so we know that it has a solid defense there as well. For Kaiser, again, coming in 10-2 on the year, just like College of Idaho, Bryce Veasley leading the way with 160 for 236, 136, I'll get this right, 160 of 236 passing, 1,970 passing yards, 1970. That was a pretty good year, by the way, prior to my arrival on the planet, but still, it was a good year. 67.8% passing, 168.4.2 passing yards per game. So Veasley completing his passes, hasn't been throwing the ball that much. He really hasn't needed to, because the ground game for Kaiser, we'll talk about that in just a moment. But that 164.2, that is 50th in the NAIA. I mean, and that's above Garrick Sluniker, because his number's even lower than that. And yet what Veasley does, he leads the team. He's solid in the helm, and we appreciate that. Jack, by the way, appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by tonight, and I'm thankful for you watching. Thanks for stopping by Midwest Sports Net, which, by the way, thanks to everyone for stopping by Midwest Sports Net tonight. Please give the video a like if you can. Those things do help out a lot. Now, we talked about the ground game for Kaiser. Jaden Meisinger, 218 carries on the year in 12 games, 1,296 rushing yards. He averages 108.0 rushing yards per game. That's 9th in the NAIA. Has 20 rushing touchdowns himself. So he's right up there in that scoring total, along with Schofield and McQuillan. His 20 rushing touchdowns are tied for third in the NAIA. And so, again, defense as well doing its job, and had those numbers up here a little bit earlier. Don't think I'm going to be able to pull them up right now, but I think the bigger numbers, let's talk about big numbers here for the defense, at least for Kaiser And you go back to the last two games, those are playoff games, a victory over St. Thomas, a very, very solid St. Thomas program. Sorry, I think one of the animals trying to get in here, Studio B. 45-21 over the Bobcats, and Rontavious Farmer keeping him in check. And then against Bethel, a very, very strong team as well, 56-14 over the Wildcats there, and trying to keep that offense in check. Did just that. So giving up right at 17.5 points per game in the playoffs, strong numbers for Kaiser. So we get down to it. Our pick here on Midwest Sportsnet. I picked poorly last week. I mean, just straight up picked poorly last week. 1 of 4 in my picks. Got Northwestern right. The only one I got right. I took Bethel on the road. I took Grandview at home. And so neither one of these teams did I pick last week, which means one of them I'm not going to pick again this week. And not that, Midwest Sportsnet's bulletin board material, but we're going to go with the home team. We're going Kaiser at home in this one. And it's the momentum. It would make for a championship game rematch in Durham with teams that would be well familiar with that field. One of them walked away as victors last year. One of them walked away and looked ahead to next season and what it could do to get back to that point. And that's what we're picking. Midwest Sportsnet, the pick is officially Kaiser over College of Idaho in this matchup. So what are your picks? Would love to hear your picks on this tonight. By the way, let us know from where you're watching. If you're watching the live stream tonight, let us know in the chat from where you are watching. We appreciate that. And we move on now to a little bit different portion then of the show. As let's see here. We'll take that one off and bring this on. We were talking about prop bets earlier in the week, and what would your prop bets be? If you're going to watch these two games on Saturday, what would your prop bets be? And I would love to hear what you think in the live chat. By the way, if you're watching the replay, please put them in the comments section. We want to see those as well. So just joining us, we picked Northwestern. We picked Kaiser. We picked the home team in both of them. I would have been better served last week if I'd picked the home team. I'd have gotten 3 out of 4 right. But instead, I got my 1 out of 4. Let's see what you do on this. All right, let's go. First game. And this is not necessarily a prop bet, but it is something. What would you take in this game? Let me know in the chat. What would you take in this game? Over, under. This is not a Vegas number. Vegas does not have these numbers on the NAIA semifinals, at least not that I know of. FanDuel, does FanDuel have that? I don't know. Maybe somewhere out there in Vegas. Somebody has this. So these are numbers that I am throwing out for you. I'm giving the over-under on this game at 54.5. 54.5. And that is to say that these two defenses, they've shown themselves strong throughout the year. Obviously, Georgetown has, at least numerically and statistically, come across as maybe more dominant on defense. But you look at what Northwestern's done. Northwestern's already pitched a shutout in the playoffs. I mean, held the defenders scoreless. It was a 7-0 game. Two very strong defenses, not something that you want to go, hey, let's go out and brave the cold of Orange City to watch this game and have only 1 touchdown scored. But it got the job done. And Northwestern on defense is strong. We know what Georgetown does on defense. So I've got the over-under at 54.5, 54.5 points. Tell me what you think. Kevin picking Northwestern and College of Idaho in the final. All right. Well, let's see how that turns out. Jack says no. What do you think about this? Let me know. Let's move on. Would love to hear what you think about that. 54.5. I think that's pretty solid. Personally, I'm the kind of guy that always goes over. And so I think that if I were to pick that, I might take the over on that. So let's move on. Here's your prop bet now. Darius Neal, the star running back, the featured back for Georgetown. What's he going to do? And is he going to play a major part in this for Georgetown? Trying to go up against that Northwestern running defense or rushing defense. What's Darius Neal going to do? He has topped that 20 mark, I believe, 4 times this season, and that's big. Are they going to stay with him? It depends on what the weather's going to be like. Is it going to be a little bit colder? Is it something that Slunaker is going to have a difficult time throwing the ball against this Red Raider defense in Iowa? I believe Slunaker is from Indiana. I'm pretty sure he can handle the cold weather. But how much is Neal going to be called on in this game to carry the ball? And Kevin said, all right, Kevin, so bottom line there is Kevin's taking the under on this, given his over-under at 51.5. All right. So you're taking the under then on that 54 for sure. I see how that is. Darius Neal is going to carry the ball. I'm going to say yeah. I'm picking it at 21.5, and I'm going to say just more than that. I believe he's carried the ball more than 21.5 times twice this season. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that's what it is. So I think they're going to look to him. Is it going to be effective? I'm saying ultimately still picking Northwestern, but that's there. All right. Next on the prop bets tonight, who scores first in this contest? We haven't seen a lot of scoring from Northwestern. I think that's the most polite way to say that. Northwestern hasn't been putting a ton of points on the board in the postseason. 31 points on the board and 7. So combining for about 19 points per game. There's the quick math on that. Quick math here on Midwest Sportsnet. 19 points a game. Who's going to score first? And is that going to be enough to get the momentum? Northwestern, we know, scored first and only against Dordt. But Georgetown's been able to show that it doesn't matter. And you look at what it did against Baker. I mean, just really, really kept them not only in check, but, shut them down. So we'll see. We'll see on that one. All right, Kevin, let's go with a couple of comments here. Throw those up there. Weather up here, 75 degrees. No, that's the weather where I am right now. I think it may be 75 degrees down here in southeastern Oklahoma. So let's put that up there again. Weather up here, 25 degrees, snow, windy, 20 to 30 miles an hour. Wow, I didn't get that forecast. So thanks for letting me know about that. All right. I'm definitely going to take the over then on giving the ball to Darius Neal more than 21.5 times in this game. Again, not that Slunaker can't do it, but I think that's probably a solid way to do that. And boy, you want to talk about the carries that Connor McQuillan may have. He may have a lot of those as well. Jack says Northwestern scores first, but just because of their defense? Okay, that's all right. Defense comes in, takes care of business, keeps Georgetown off the ball. And, it's in games like this, and let me keep that up there for just a second. Games like this where you look and you get the coin toss, and most often in regular season game, coin toss goes out and you defer to the second half. I mean, it doesn't happen every time, but often you'll see that. Defer to the second half. In a game like this, you may see the team that wins the coin toss say, look, we're going to go on defense first and just try to boot the ball into the end zone, force the other team to take it at the 25, see if you can make something happen in inclement weather, snowy, windy, cold weather, and possibly get an early turnover, a punt that goes awry, and now you've got the ball in good position on your very first possession. Take that momentum and take it right back down the field. So that could be something that happens. Just something to look for in that weather right there. I guess that could have been a prop bet as well. If you win the coin toss, what do you do? But there's that. All right, here we go. Last one. Is this the last one? No. Two more here on the Georgetown Northwestern game. Does Georgetown score a defensive touchdown? Georgetown is one of 5 teams in the NAIA that has 6 defensive touchdowns to its credit over the course of the season. Tigers have been strong on defense. We've talked about shutting teams down, holding teams to just 13.5 points a game. Do the Tigers score that defensive touchdown? And when you look at it, and we're going to get to another one of these numbers in the second game, you look at that and you think, okay, they're 10-1, so it is easier to think. I mean, it's better than 50% chance. I mean, it's just that simple. It is a better than 50% chance that the Tigers score a touchdown, a defensive touchdown in this game. And because of that, I'm going to say yes. The Tigers do score a defensive touchdown in this game. Is it enough? No. Still have Northwestern on top. But I think because there's a better than 50% chance they score a touchdown, defensive touchdown in this game, that's what I'm going to go with. All right. Let me know what you think. One more here. Here we go. This one from the Northwestern side. All right. Northwestern fans. So, Kevin, comment on this one. I'm expecting a comment on this one from you. Here we go. How many touchdowns is Gramstad responsible for? Now, I didn't put an over-under on this one, but Gramstad has done so well this year. His game has changed, and he's passed for 30 touchdowns. That was not what he did last year. Crossed that 30 touchdown mark passing. Last year, I believe 24 and 22 passing touchdowns to rushing touchdowns. Here's where the weather becomes a place where possibly, Coach McCarty says, you know what, we do something different. We know that Jalen can run the ball. It's not something that he's shown a lot over the course of this season, but we know that he can run the ball if the weather outside is frightful and it becomes challenging to throw the ball. Do we see those legs come into play one more time? There's so much to be said for some of these players that are still around in these Final Four games. I don't know if you say this in football. I know in the NAIA and basketball it's the Fab Four, and I think in volleyball it's the Fab Four. And so you come down to this. It's not the Final Four. That is a trademarked name, by the way, for the NCAA. So the NAIA does not market what it does as the Final Four. Fab Four works. I don't know if that's what you call it in the NAIA Football Championship Series, which is not a bracket, but it's a championship series. We're not going to harp on that one tonight. Do you call it the Fab Four still? But in these remaining 4 games, how's that? Does that work a little bit better? In these remaining 4 teams, 3 more games. These are some pretty strong players, and they really are. Jalen Gramstad, I think, could and should be the player of the year. I think what he's done for his team and the way he's led his team this year, his game has changed. He's evolved, and I think he could and should be the player of the year. I think there's a lot that could be said for Andy Peters' game and what he's done for College of Idaho. And really, I mean, just the workhorse that he's been, not only passing the ball, running the ball as well. And you even look too at I would say somebody else on College of Idaho's team, John Schofield. The all-purpose numbers may not be there. I mean, he's looking at 869 all-purpose yards, but he's responsible for 24 touchdowns. I mean, he's that short yardage person that gets the ball into the end zone, running the ball. He can catch the ball as well. So I think there's a lot to be said for some of these players in these remaining 4 teams that are left in these final 2 games, and then of course the championship. But I think that Gramstad, is he responsible? Kevin says 3 touchdowns. Jack says he agrees with Kevin. I agree with both of you. I'm going to put on there 3 touchdowns because I think that McQuillan will get some carries. I think he's going to break one. I think he's going to find a way to get past that Georgetown defense. I think McQuillan breaks one, and he's able to get one open. And I think also there may be one of those RPO looks or just simply a delayed give where things open up on a third. I'm not a fan of running the draw on third and long. Absolutely despise the play, and I'm on record for nearly 30 years for saying that. Probably, I don't know, 35. Anyway, that having been said, you get something open like this, maybe on a second down, you get a delayed handoff, you get an opening right up the middle, whether it's a McQuillan, whether it's a Gramstad, somebody else breaks one of those open. But ultimately, I would say Gramstead responsible for 3 touchdowns. And you're right, Kevin. He's totally a dual threat. And is this the game where he shows out as that dual threat? All right. We've been on that one for a while, so let's move over here really quickly. Let's talk about College of Idaho at Kaiser. And I know maybe not as many fans on the live chat right now, but let's talk about some prop bets. This one not a prop bet. This is just an over/under. I have the over/under on College of Idaho and Kaiser at 70.5, and I'm totally taking the over on that one. I'm being conservative with that over/under. I really think I am. These are two offenses that are just flat lighting it up. As College of Idaho put up 49 points in the first game, and that was a barn burner, a 49-42 win on the road at Montana Western. Put up 31 points against a Grandview team that had given up 56 points all year long total. I mean, 31 points. That was amazing. What an amazing effort. And then you look at what Kaiser's done. Kaiser putting up more than 50 points a game twice in the playoffs. So 70.5 points probably is conservative. For me, totally taking the over on this one. Let me know what you think about that. And again, if you're watching the replay, put it in the comment section. We'd love to hear that one too. Who is responsible for more touchdowns for College of Idaho? Is it Andy Peters? Is it John Schofield? I'm going to say Peters, but just by one. I think that College of Idaho could put 35 points on the board against what is a strong Kaiser defense. And we're not taking away from the defenses of either one of these teams. We're just saying they're both good offenses. Yeah, it's going to be a high-scoring game, Kevin. I think Peters has one more touchdown, and I would say, just for fun, Peters is responsible for 3, and Schofield's responsible for 2. And if it really blows open, absolutely just breaks open, and this is, the teams combined for 100 points. I know that's a lot. Yes, Jack, 71 seems like a lot, but I'm telling you, I really think it's possible in this game. Okay, 71 points, that's just really 36-35. So Kaiser is going to try to put 50 up again. I'm from the state of Oklahoma, where, our coach years ago, even though I'm an alum of Oklahoma State, but my family, big OU fans, and I grew up here and hang half 100 on them, and that's what Kaiser's done the last 2 games. So if they hang half 100, all College of Idaho needs is 20 at that point, really. Kaiser needs to use, let me go ahead and put this up here, Jack. Kaiser needs to use the weather to their advantage. Rightfully so. And let's see, do we have a weather forecast on this one? You know what? We have the internet to our advantage here. Let's see here if we can pull up Palm Beach's 10-day weather forecast. I'm going off the Weather Channel here. Saturday. Oh, is anyone going to be at this game? 81. Morning thunderstorms, it says, though. But 81. Some wind up to about 12 miles an hour. Boy, I'll tell you what, you're exactly right. That they need to use the weather to their advantage. And a running game like that should be a lot of fun. I think Meisinger is going to get a lot in this as well. So what do you think? Over, under? We were back on responsible. Peters responsible for more than Schofield. I have Peters with one more touchdown more than Schofield right there. All right, let's look at a couple more here. 2 more prop bets here. This one, these next 2 are for Kaiser. That says Jared. That's not right. Jaden Meisinger. Let's just fix that really quickly before that stays out there too long. Okay. There we go. Who types this stuff anyway? Jaden Meisinger. Over under 199.5 yards. 199.5 yards. So is he going to break 200? I've been taking the over in everything so far, and I'm not going to change that now. I think Meisinger gets more than 200 in this. And he's shared the workload with Andrew Burnett lately. And Burnett had a fantastic day. in the win last Saturday. Kaiser coming away with the big victory there over Bethel. The two combined for about 260 yards. I think if Meisinger he seems to be healthy and wants to get the ball at this point in time as we get down to the semifinals and to the Fab Four, I say that he has more than 200 yards, and that's a factor. So there we go. So the over-under, the prop bet here, Kevin says yes. He has he's going more than 200. He's going more than 215. You know what? That's not off the mark, Kevin. Not off the mark at all. Having to agree with you. So tell us what you think about that one. We have one more, and then we'll start to wrap things up tonight. And this is also for Kaiser. I at least spelled Fallord's name right. Wendell Fallord. My middle name is Wendell. However, it's spelled a little bit differently than that. Wendell Fallord Jr. What kind of touchdown does Wendell Fallord Jr. score? All right. So we're assuming at this point that Fallord is going to score a touchdown. He has 6 non-offensive touchdowns in 12 games this year. 3 punt return touchdowns, 1 kickoff return for a touchdown, 1 interception return for a touchdown. And last week, he had a fumble recovery return for a touchdown. So in 12 games, he scored 6 non-offensive touchdowns. That means he's won in every 2 games, he's going to score a touchdown. We're going to assume that he's scoring a touchdown in this game, a non-offensive touchdown. And I'd like to know, what do you think? What kind of touchdown is Wendell Fallord Jr. going to score? I'll tell you my pick. What do you think? I think it's going to be a pick 6. I think he finds a way to get a pick 6. And this is not something, again, that happens all the time with Peters. He's thrown only 8 interceptions all season long. He's had that many rushing touchdowns. I mean, there's a great statistic right there for, you talk about a dual threat quarterback. Peters is that dual threat quarterback as well. He has as many rushing touchdowns as he has interceptions thrown this season. So he has only 8, but I think if Wendell Fallord Jr. is going to get a non-offensive touchdown, I'm going to go ahead and say he gets the pick 6. He has the interception, whether it be from long distance or short, and maybe that Kaiser defense has backed up College of Idaho back into minus territory a little bit, and the Yotes are trying to get out of it. And, Kevin agrees with me. All right. Kevin, I appreciate that. Agreeing. It's always nice when you agree with the host, so that's good. Kevin says the pick 6 as well. I agree. Pick 6 as well. So that's what we have tonight. All right. I think we're going to wrap this one up tonight. Yeah, we're closing in on the 40-minute mark tonight, so I want to wrap it up and just say again, final notice on all of this really quickly. Let's go ahead and take this one down. Go back up here. Northwestern at Georgetown. Our pick is Northwestern in this. It's official. Goes on the record. And then our pick in this one is Kaiser. And I realize that I believe. Let's see. Yeah, Kevin's already said no. Kevin says that it's going to be College of Idaho. I'm going to go with Kaiser in this one. I want to say thanks everybody for watching. And I also want to give this programming note. Of course, this is live on a Thursday night. We've already had a chance again to visit with Grace Beyer, who is the leading scorer in NAIA in women's basketball this year. It's her senior year. She's also, she's done the Pete Maravich. She's led the country in scoring. I realize it wasn't at LSU and not in the NCAA, but she's led the country in scoring each her freshman, sophomore, and junior years. She's on pace to do it again her senior year. An amazing feat. We had a chance to visit with her. That is on the channel. Please give that a watch. Had a great visit yesterday with Jason Danley from the Victory Sports Network, who, of course, according to their site, the nation's home for NAIA sports, we talk a little bit about NAIA sports here as well. So keep that in mind. Jason, great to get to visit with him yesterday. And then tomorrow on the channel, it'll come on later in the day because we get to do the interview a little bit later on, but we get to visit with some national champions. And so I encourage you, stop by, visit then. We'll be back on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central for our top 5 performances from the weekend. So we'll talk about players from these 2 games and go beyond the 5 a little bit. And also this coming week, we are going to, we talked about reviewing the season a little bit tonight. We're going to save that and we will review the season over the course of the coming week. as we head toward the NAIA championship game, which will be on, that's going to be on that Monday following. So it's not going to be on the Saturday. It'll be on that Monday following. So we have a lot to talk about, on the way. And I appreciate you all watching tonight. Jack, Kevin, thank you very much for watching tonight. Shout out, by the way, to Jake, who got online long enough to give us a shout out tonight too. Please continue to support the channel. And I'll tell you, this is one of the best ways you can do it. We are coming close to a milestone here on Midwest Sportsnet. And the best way you can help with that is to just watch some videos, like some videos along the way. Those watched hours are important, and we're closing in on that milestone right now. So I encourage you, please watch the videos here, and it means a lot. It really does mean a lot. Thank you so much for spending time with me on this Thursday night, and I look forward to spending some more time with you as the weekend goes on. May even hop on a Saturday and talk about the games a little bit as well. Don't forget, tomorrow, big video tomorrow. I am totally stoked about getting to talk with some national champions here tomorrow. So thanks again for watching. God bless you all. Have a great, great night, and I will I'll see you later.